want to raise your 2 points first, so you're going to have to start out and Colin come back in?
Okay. I just wanted to mention, well, it's 3 things actually. I did look at your minutes and quickly went on to the website where you could find the job descriptions. And it's just a point to mention that when I looked at the job description for the finance officer, who I know now is no longer that title, it's a town clerk you're going for, and you've got obviously the locum situation. But the job for the finance officer and the job for the development officer, I was shocked to see they were the same salary, albeit one was pro rata because they were part-time. The jobs were wholly different. The finance officer, you know, like the town clerk, is a very involved, in-depth job. Salary, I've got no problem with that whatsoever. But the development officer, well, I could only find one sentence for the job that I think would warrant a higher salary than standard salary. And I just felt that they weren't comparable jobs for the salary. They weren't comparable salaries. And so I want to make a point of that I do feel that that needs to be reviewed, because if we're in the cat-strapped situation that we are, offering the salary for development officer that you are, I thought was very high, albeit a temporary post. So that's the first thing. I do have to agree with Paul Mortby on the fact that the jobs weren't advertised locally, because we have got amazing social media in Portishead. We've also got the North Somerset Times, and it would have been nice to have seen an advert go in our local papers for those who are not able to access the agency that you use. And I do have to question whether if you'd advertised locally, you may not have had to go to the agency and incurred those costs.
We did advertise locally on social media.
Not in the papers, so you didn't.
We didn't do that. The reason
When you say on social media, you did one link to the agency, not what the role was. So a lot of people would have missed that.
Just for information, basically only 1% of jobs are actually ever fulfilled these days through the newspapers. People don't.
That may well be the case for big corporations, big organisations, but we're Portishead Town Council acting for our community in Portishead, aren't we?
Things have changed, Annette, but that's 1% across the UK of all jobs.
Yeah, but I'm talking about our town council. And we don't have to, as you've said to us before you were elected, we don't have to do things that way. We don't have to do things the standard way. We can do things for our town. And that would have been nice, because there could have been local people that would have jumped at that job without you having to need to go to the agency. And then the only other thing I wanted to say was on interests. It's really important, and we had this with the last incumbent, that pecuniary interest and personal interest are very different things, and normally a councillor only has to declare a pecuniary interest. If you feel that it's right to declare a personal interest because you feel happier, that's great, but as members of the public we need to know whether it's a personal or pecuniary interest. Otherwise we've got no way of knowing. But also if it's a prejudicial interest, in other words pecuniary, then that person has actually got to leave the room. And in fact, you should not engage in any discussions whatsoever. So I just think it's something for the future that you need to make sure that you're aware of that. Sorry? Well, it did actually happen tonight, but it's not something I want necessarily minuted. I just want to highlight that we did have problems with interest before. And it's very important to the members of the public that if someone has got a pecuniary interest, which is a financial interest, it might not be an in-depth one, but that they do leave the room. In past sessions, that hasn't always happened. Tonight, Sue did have an interest, and I don't know whether it was personal or pecuniary.
A personal.
But then we need to know that.
I did say that I was acquainted with the
Yeah. We don't know in what sense that is, but at the same time, Paddy very correctly highlighted the fact that you shouldn't have actually been involved in that discussion then.
Normally for a personal interest, yes, you are correct, but I think I could vote. I have to double check.
No, well, in some ways, perhaps you don't need to do it then. But if it's pecuniary, then you've got to leave the room.
I